Great. Thanks, Sarah, for inviting me to share my thoughts about growing design team and how can we scale the impact of design. As Alex and Joel mentioned, I'm currently head of product design at Veyor. I'm based in Sydney in Australia. And for those that don't know Veyor, if you haven't heard of Veyor, we're a startup scale-up that builds products for the construction industry. So our platform brings together builders, general contractors, subcontractors, and suppliers onto one platform to basically drive some efficiencies on site so that those projects are finished on time and on budget. And we're hiring. So we recently got a new round of funding and we're going to be doubling the team in the next 12 months. So if you're interested in knowing more about Veyor, please reach out on LinkedIn or Twitter. And today I wanted to talk about building design teams because I'm really passionate about building happy and high performance product design teams. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And I want to start with that reflection. I feel like in 2021, we don't need to justify the business value of design, or not as much as we used to. Reports like the business value of design from McKinsey have helped boards and executive teams see that it makes business sense to invest in design, and that companies that do this well actually see the results of investment in terms of revenue or shareholder value. And as a result, I feel our design teams are growing everywhere. They are growing quicker than ever and more than ever. And the proof is that you can find a lot of articles online. If you do a quick search, there are infinite number of articles out there in how to scale a design team. Companies like Atlassian have explained their story, how they've grown their design from 6 to 126 designers in just 4 years. But designers are growing not only in absolute numbers, the ratio designer to developer is also growing. And not only Atlassian, which has come from one designer every 25 developers to one designer every 9, but also in companies like Dropbox or Intercom, LinkedIn, Uber, and IBM, which is definitely the biggest change, since it's the biggest change. They used to have one designer for every 72 developers, and then they've moved that ratio now to one every 8. But I'd like to launch a question like, is the impact or design really growing at that same rate, the same rate as our design teams are growing in size? And if you look at the McKinsey report, it actually talked about the best design performers, not necessarily the larger design teams. So going back to that question, is the impact of those design teams growing at the same time? I would say probably not. And that's because growth is actually hard. Edward Hurst, which is the author of this book, Road to Greatness, and also an MBA professor at the University of Virginia, says that growing bigger is actually not always better. In growing bigger, businesses increase their complexity, requiring more bureaucracy, more rules. He's actually talking about business growth, but I feel it's applicable also for design teams. So when you go from a team of 3 to a team of 7 people, you just have added four people, but the lines of communication actually has gone from 3 to 21. And when you have 11 people on your team, you have actually 55 different lines of communication. So complexity grows exponentially, and staying aligned and working toward the same goals becomes so much harder as your team grows. Basecamp founders have been actually really vocal about their anti-growth philosophy in their books and articles. They say things like this quote, "We hire late, we hire after it hurts, we hire to alleviate pain, not for pleasure." So does that all mean that should we not grow or design teams? I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that our focus should probably not be so much on the size of our teams, because that's just the means to an end, but on the impact that we are creating and on scaling that impact. So I want to launch today 3 questions that I believe can help you, if you ask yourself those questions, to scale your impact without growing your design team, or before growing your design team, or even while you're growing your design team. So 3 questions to help scale your impact as a designer or design team. The first one is, do you have the right designers in the right places? So you probably can maximize the impact of every one of your team members by ensuring that they are in the right places. Even the most talented designers can end up underperforming if they are in the wrong team or the wrong project. So whether a designer will thrive in a specific team or project will probably depend on what they do well, what interests them, and what comes natural to them. So as a design leader, you really need to understand the people on your team, what makes them, what motivates them, what do they want to do, where do they want to grow, to be able to match them to the right team or the right project and make sure that they are thriving on that project. In an internal agency model or a centralized team, things are a bit more flexible, actually. You can assign people to specific projects based on their skill sets or interests, and they can change over time. But in a distributed model where designers are part of cross-functional teams, which is more the norm right now in some of the tech companies, things are a bit less fluid. So it's even more important that the right designers are on the right teams and with the right team members. For example, if one team has a strong PM, you might need to have a really senior designer or a vocal designer to be able to balance that out, challenge each other, and be able to work effectively together. Another thing to consider is the type of designers. The design leadership book by Envision talks about there's two different types of designers, farmers versus hunters. Farmers thrive in BAU, business as usual, and incremental improvements. They thrive on product iteration and refinements. While hunters, they get bored with BAU or incremental improvements, and they thrive at the opportunity of developing either a new project from scratch, new product from scratch, or a complete redesign. They like pushing the limits and thinking outside the box. So knowing if your designers are more farmers or hunters and matching them to the right type of projects can make a real difference, make them thrive or make them really miserable. And another thing that's really important is having the right combination or the right ratio of juniors versus seniors. And this will be different for every organization and for every context. But a great way I like to think about this is, are you in peace times or in war times? In peace times, you harvest food or talent. In this case, this is a time to hire more juniors as long as you have enough seniors to support them and guide them and accelerate their growth. But in war times, though, if you have a critical project with a really tight deadline, you probably want seniors that can run with it and get it done. So having more juniors on that team is just probably going to slow them down. And having said that, if your company is always in war times, then there is other problems in there that might need to be solved. The second question I wanted to launch is, are your designers truly partnering with product and tech or engineering? There's a lot of articles out there about building a design-led culture, a design-led company, but if you search the right terms, there's also quite a few articles as well about how to be a product-led organization or even an engineering-driven culture or company. So it seems like we're all fighting those three disciplines. We're all fighting for that leading role instead of really partnering together into building something for our customers and for our business. For me, truly partnering means that having those three disciplines involved in all stages of the product life cycle and the double diamond. So not having designers only involved at the end during the execution phase to make the screens look pretty, but also not having the engineers or the developers only involved in the second diamond, but having them from the beginning, helping us find some solutions to those problems and understanding the customer problems, the constraints, and helping us find some solutions. So having those three disciplines responsible for delivering business and customer results. And my third question is actually linked to that one. So do your designers actually feel accountable for customer and business results, not only for customer outcomes, but also for the business results? So one of my ex-colleagues from MYOB, Vinny, in his talk at UX Australia, the accidental business person, talked about how improving your business acumen skills can lead you to having more impact as a designer. In this tweet, Jared Spool was mentioning that there's only 5 things that executives care about: increasing revenue, decreasing cost, increasing new business or market share, increasing revenue from existing customer, and increasing shareholder value. And that seems easy and good overall. But in a workshop that we ran at UX New Zealand a couple of years ago, we explained that some of these business goals, even though really useful, like revenue, for example, even though really useful, they're often too high level to be inspiring for us as a designer or for a design team. As designers, we're probably more used to look at analytics and things like telemetry or button clicks, but those are often too granular to be meaningful. So we felt that we needed something in between to bridge that gap. And we were proposing a customer-centric metrics can actually help bridge that gap. And we define a customer-centric metric as objectives at key results that aim at creating business value, but they're framed from the perspective of the customer. So kind of linking those two things together and helping your designers understand what is the outcome they wanted to achieve for the customer and how will that fit and improve or help our business achieve their goals as well and improve our business performance. And this is really similar to this concept of outcome that Joshua Seaton is mentioning in his book, Outcome Over Output. So he defines an outcome as a change in human behavior that drives business results. In summary, I believe that if we are really partners, like if design, product, and technology are really partners, everyone in that team should be responsible for customer and business results. So we can build that alignment that we're all working towards the same objective. And being able to articulate how specific design decisions will affect your customer and how that will drive business result will make you a more effective designer or design leader. So I hope these 3 simple questions can help set the right foundations to scale your team and your impact. And I like to finish like in a summary about the talk. So I guess my main idea is that sometimes we put too much focus on size of our design teams instead of impact. And growth can create value, but too much growth can actually also outstrip effective processes, controls, and management capacity. So we really need to set the right foundations for growing our team and our impact. And I want to leave you with this question for every one of you to think about and reflect, like, is your design team ready for growth? Does it have the right foundations for it to scale their impact, not as they increase headcounts, continue to scale their impact at the same rate? Thanks so much. And if you have any questions, please reach out by email or Twitter, or you'll find me on LinkedIn.